Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So it is the month of October 2021, and we are in the midst of Kyle's Killer October. However, we're going to be taking a break just now to revisit our monthly Tales from the Shelf show format. Essentially what this is an exercise wherein myself and a guest, in this case my buddy Brad from the CinemaSpeak podcast, take a look at our respective film collections and just share some war stories. Usually we just pick a singular topic though. So Brad, would you care to introduce this month's topic to our dear listeners?
Oh, I'd love to. Well, so for this one, we are titling it A Collection of Cuts, and we're specifically looking for films that have different cuts, different alternate versions, whether it be, for censorship or different releases in different countries, so on and so forth. And, I think you kind of came up with the idea. It's a good idea. I wasn't sure if I would have enough to, hold my own, but actually after looking through my collection, I did find quite a few. The only downside is the Blu-Ray.com app doesn't have a way to sort by movies with multiple cuts and multiple versions, so I kind of had to go old school. I had to just go through my collection and think, okay, does that have an alternate cut? Is that? No. And there were a few that stood out automatically, but for some of them I kind of had to just go through one by one and try and think, does that have two cuts on that disc? I don't know.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that's one of my favorite things of doing Tales from the Shelf is just that exercise of pacing back and forth and putting your thinking cap on and thinking what do I have that fits that theme? Because it is meant to be a little bit of an exercise. How well do I know my own collection?
Yeah. See, I cheat. I always just go on the Blu-ray.com app and just sort by.
You kids and your newfangled contraptions. I mean, you were the person who told me about the Blu-ray.com app, which I absolutely should be using. However, instead, I continue to update a grossly organized Google sheet it doesn't even have any conditional formatting or anything. It is a busted, janky piece of shit. But it's what I started with, and it's what I will continue to use.
I tell you though, man, when you finally download it and you take a Sunday afternoon and you go through and you scan in the barcode for every film in your collection, that'll just be a great day. That'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, Brad, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be on the floor with stacks. Imagine that scene in High Fidelity when John Cusack is reorganizing his records. It'll be that, except with movies, and I'll have my phone out, scanning all the barcodes and stuff, and then the girlfriend will walk in and just be like, I'll come back.
Yeah. You need some time with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be a afternoon or a weekend project or something.
But, Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we are here to connect the cuts. I can't even remember where that comes from, Brad. Maybe you can help me out.
I believe The Devil Inside is what you're referencing.
Yeah, but I don't even think I've seen that. But somehow I just know that soundbite.
I mean, it was in the trailer. I know that.
Oh, that's probably where I got it from then. But yeah, we are here to explore a collection of cuts, and I was very glad to hear, Brad, that you did find you had a lot of material that lent itself to this topic, because I don't know, man, over the past several years I've really discovered that this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. It's something that my ears perk up whenever I become aware of alternative versions of well-known films and whatnot. It's just something I'm endlessly fascinated in. I think it's because in recent years I've been doing a lot of video editing on my own. And so having lived in that environment, having seen that I forget who said it, maybe it was Tarantino or something, but it could be said that a film is not a film until it's gone through the editing process, because you really can completely drastically alter the nature of a film just by making a few cuts here and there. And I've experienced that. I've done that firsthand in editing films and editing productions and whatnot. So it's a fun exercise for me, just taking a look at what I know and then seeing what a second pass in the editing room can yield. doesn't always yield good results, but it is kind of amazing, actually, like the difference that a second pass can make.
Well, let me, I don't want to start this episode off on an argument and a disagreement, but I'm gonna pull a lateral here in football terms, I think, and I'm gonna say that I actually disagree with you. I do think different cuts are fascinating, but I actually hate when movies have different cuts. I absolutely hate it because you buy these Blu-rays and they contain 2 cuts, and most of the time it's a movie I haven't watched in 10 years or whatever, so I don't remember what the hell I watched originally. So you Google, what's the best cut to watch? And it's like, well, this cut's a little longer, so the pacing is a little slower, but it does have a few good moments that if you're a fan of the film, you should definitely check. And it's just like, so you watch one cut, and you're like, all right, I watched that. And then 10 years later, you're trying to remember, what was the last cut I watched? I got 2 cuts on this disc. I don't remember what the hell I watched last time. I hate it. I honestly hate it.
I understand completely where you're coming from, and I'll just be upfront right now and state that I will not be showing off any copies of the Fast and Furious films during this episode, even though pretty much all of those movies from, I think, like the 4th one onward have extended cut Loud and Proud on the front cover art.
I had no idea.
I hope I didn't ruin your evening just then, Brad, because all those movies, Loud and Proud on the cover art, they do advertise extended cuts for them. Only difference is they do a very poor job of instructing the viewer as to what the extended entails. You and I were talking before we even started recording that extended cut is a loaded term. like that can entail many things. In the case of a lot of comedies, it just means we reinserted a bunch of B-roll of our funny people riffing on the set and called it extra footage, when in actuality those were like our less than stellar gags that were meant to be cut from the film, but we just slipped them in there, and hey, the runtime's longer, so extended. In the case of the Fast and Furious movies, I barely know the difference between the cuts. Like, I know I've seen them, but it's like I'd be hard pressed to tell you what the actual difference is between that and the theatrical cut. And like I said, I'm not going to be showing those off, but instances like that really piss me off because those are features that are crammed into the disc the day it hits the shelf, where it's like, so you mean this extended cut is being made available to me only if I purchase it, and I wasn't even aware of its existence until I purchased it. It's like, that's not a good system, especially since they really fuck you hard, I think, with that 8th one, which is not a good movie. But if I remember correctly, they relegated the extended cut of it to the digital copy of the movie.
Ooh, ouch.
Which I could not give 2 shits about, so I haven't bothered with it. But as far as I understand, it's not on the disc. It's like you have...
That is pretty low.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking low, especially since it's probably one of the services that doesn't even exist anymore or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're here to talk about a collection of cuts, none of which will be Fast and Furious movies, I hope. But Brad, as is customary, I would very much like to throw you under the bus and have you get us started. So what would be your first pick for this evening?
Yeah, let me start by saying that a lot of the time, I don't take this the wrong way, Trevor, but I don't do a ton of homework when we record these. When I'm highlighting these films, I don't usually rewatch them in preparation ahead of time.
Yeah, no problem.
But I will say... Yeah, I did actually watch this film just this past week because I knew we were going to be doing this episode, and I was like, oh, this has multiple cuts. Can't remember anything about either of them or remember much from the film, to be totally honest, so I rewatched one of the cuts. I don't know if it was the one I'd seen before, because who knows. But I rewatched Dario Argento's Deep Red, which is released through Arrow Video. Now, this movie actually is coming out on 4K in the next week or so, I believe. It's like just around the corner. It's finally coming out on 4K. This one, just the Blu-ray, of course, but just a gorgeous set here. Kind of pisses me off that they released it on 4K after releasing this amazing set. and I spent like $35 on it, and it's like, oh well, I watched it twice before it came out on 4K. But what are you gonna do? But this movie, it does have at least 2 cuts. I don't know if there's more, but this set contains 2 different cuts. We've got, I believe it is just the original version, and then also the export version. So the export version, I think, was the version that was trimmed down to release to, I'm assuming, American audiences, maybe other territories as well. But it is quite a bit shorter, so I'm sure it, trims up the runtime, just gets more to the goods, because us Americans, I mean, we're dumb. We just want to get to the goods. We don't want any of that slow character development. Just get us to the kills. And I gotta say, I rewatched or watched the original version on this recent watch. I chose to watch that version partly because it is the one that is presented on disc 1, so I would think it's like the optimal, what people consider the optimal version. Gotta say, next time I watch this film, I might be watching the export version, because I love this movie, but one thing I have to say about it is it has some lulls. It drags. It's pretty long, and honestly, watching it, I was like, damn, this movie, maybe I am a dumb American, because I'm like, if this thing was a little tighter and we got to the kills a little quicker, this could be like a 5-banger. As it stands, it wasn't quite there for me. I still love the movie. I love Dario Argento, but it definitely feels a little overly long. So hopefully when I rewatch this, I'll remember to try out the export version, see if I like it anymore. But as it stands, I'm guessing I've probably only seen the Italian original version.
Yeah, I mean, I fully understand your frustration with multiple cuts now, where it's like it's probably, I would have to assume, like a lot of film fanatics or giallo snobs out there probably insist vehemently that the original cut is the cut. Like, we can't tolerate this international cut horseshit. Ooh, kind of dig
nice
the booklet.
Little booklet. Yeah,
handsome.
Yeah, it's good.
But at the end of the day, you have to trust your gut when it comes to your own personal enjoyment of a product. So it's like, if you can save some time and have a better experience, why not just watch the version you personally prefer? It doesn't make you a bad person. There's a reason why some of those cuts were made. It just, sometimes a second pass in the editing room can yield benefits. Like, sometimes you actually can make a slightly superior product just by trimming it a little bit or rearranging a few bits here and there, or even something as simple as just like trimming a few frames here and there and changing a few sound cues, or like rearranging the music in particular. That's a big point for me, is like sometimes audio cues just need a second pass, where it's like, maybe we should save that one for somewhere else or rearrange it or something. But that's a movie that you've brought up several times. It's definitely very high on my list of a giallo to check. Is that a proper giallo, or is it just a Argento film? Okay.
It's definitely, I think a lot of people say it's like the giallo essentially to watch. And I can see why, because it's got all the hallmarks of the genre, and the kill scenes are great, and I love the ending. And especially the reveal of the killer is amazing, because this was the second time I'd seen it, and they have a thing where basically, and I'll try, this is not spoiler, I'll avoid spoiling this, but they basically reveal who the killer is at the start of the movie, but you just don't even notice it. And I was kind of like, and they replay that scene at the end of the movie. And the first time I watched it, I was like, I wonder if they just added that in, like they shot the scene again and just added that. But no, like watching it again, like that was there the whole time, and it's like, wow, how did I not catch that? Like it's pretty cool. It's a great reveal.
Wow, that's a sign of very skillful filmmaking if you can pull that particular magic trick off, because like that.
Now you know to look for it though. You'll get it. Now you know.
Well, that just means I need to sit on it for a little bit and wait till I forget that little factoid or something. But it's long been on my to-do list because you have talked it up in the past, and it's one of those subgenres that I think I would quite enjoy. For whatever reason, I'm the guy who recommends those movies to people without having actually seen them. I think I did that to Kyle.
Terrible, and you have no idea. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've recommended a few movies. Like, I just talk directly out my ass. Like, oh yeah, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. That's a classic. It's like, have you seen it? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But no, at this point, I trust you and your preferences. So like, if you were to suggest that one as like baby's first Giallo or something, I might go with that. But like I said, it's something I'd like to get around to watching, and maybe I'll just cut straight to the international version now that I know it's a little snappier. And I am in fact a dumb American, so it's probably tailor-made for me and my go schedule.
I think it's about 20 minutes shorter, so it's a pretty significant. I mean, the original is like over 2 hours. It's for a horror film, like that's a big length.
That's a big ask. That is
Yeah.
a big ask when you're talking about certain types of horror movies. It's like, no, we I mean, if I could snap, this is when you'd say we got to go, but I can't snap, so I'm not gonna try. Fuck you, Brad. So I suppose the ball is to me. So we were talking about. I'm just gonna blow through. I'm gonna cheat again because it is my show, and I'm entitled to break the rules as I see fit. And you are as well too, Brad. It's not like we have a fucking rule board or something. I should do that when you're talking, just like hold up a whiteboard and be like, like, wrap it up, Brad.
Yeah.
But this all four of these movies feature minor differences. So these are technically, I guess, alternate cuts, but they're such minor differences that it's not like a front of the box feature. It's like one of those things that's like the hardcore people are aware of these things and probably had to do research in order to become aware that these details were in fact included on these discs. That would be me, who had to do the fucking detective work to even know that what I was buying and why I was paying a premium for it. But like I said, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. But so yeah, these are movies that I wouldn't call them full-blown extended cuts or directors. They're certainly not director's cuts, but I wouldn't call them full-blown extended cuts. They're more just like victims of censorship. But there exists in some form, in some cases, more complete versions of them. So I'll just run through these pretty quick because I realize I'm tackling 4 at a time here. But I have Fist of the North Star, the movie. This is a Discotek Media disc. And this actually, I'm starting off with a kind of a bullshit one, honestly, because Fist of the North Star is an 80s manga and anime that's very near and dear to my heart and my brother's as well. He took it upon himself to watch the whole TV show at some point, like all 100+ episodes or whatever. But the movie is a condensed version of a certain chunk of the story. But basically, they just made a 90-minute, very well animated version of something that from week to week was being broadcast on a weekly television show in shit quality animation. And they're like, what if we took like 100 volumes of comics and condensed it into 90 minutes of movie, but just made sure the animation was really good? So the story's borderline incoherent, but at least the animation's cool. So, you know, the fans will get it. Everybody else will be like, I have no fucking clue what's going on or why that guy hates that guy or whatever. Anyway, this disc doesn't feature an extended cut, but the reason I wanted to point this out is that this movie, as far as I understand, doesn't exist in its complete form. It was screened in theaters in, I think, 1986, both in Japan and abroad. And as it currently exists, both on this Blu-ray, on DVD, on VHS, no matter where you find it, there's this weird digital mosaic effect overlaid onto many instances of brutal violence in the movie, of which there is a lot. This is the series, Brad, where people touch each other and they explode. It is the martial art of pressure points, wherein you poke people, you tell them you're already dead, and then they explode. So people explode and are torn asunder by people's bare hands repeatedly, like every 5 minutes. They go by the slasher movie clock on this movie, where it's like, in 10 minutes, man, there's got to be tits or blood you gotta give me one or both. Like,
love it.
Every 10 minutes. But the problem with this movie is that, like I said, somebody, maybe there were like parents groups involved or something. I know there was a little bit of like backlash, like a public response because it was so intensely gory. Somebody went back and re-edited the thing and put this digital mosaic pattern over a lot of the gore, not all of it, such that this movie is in gorgeous 1080p on the Blu-ray disc, but even to this day, those sequences, those few seconds of footage at a time, look like absolute dog shit. They look like 240p with a mosaic pattern on them. It's jarring, to say the least. And not only that, the ending is different. I forget which version is on this disc, but there are two different endings to the movie. Originally, the final battle is, I think, stopped by a little girl, and it ends before both of the hero and the villain kill each other, and she intercedes and it stops. But as it currently exists, for whatever reason, they felt the need to go back and change the ending, like reanimate it, so that the hero loses the fight and is about to be killed, and then the girl shows up. It's like, I guess it was really important for the villain to look tough. I don't know where that came from, but apparently we needed to redraw the fucking ending. So I'm sure those animators were like, like, thanks, I already got carpal tunnel in both my wrists, but now you want me to redraw the fucking ending? Okay, man. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
It was probably on a Friday at like 4:00 too. They told him about it. Like,
oh yeah, he probably had like he was probably like packing up, like getting ready to go. He was probably getting ready to take one of those like 20-minute shits where it's just like it's almost the end of the day. It's like I'll just camp out in the toilet stall. Nobody will notice. And then they're like, oh hey, Joji, could you come back here and like, yeah, could you redraw the ending like today? It's like, oh no.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Anyway, I thought that was very interesting because I have searched high and low. In fact, when this Blu-ray disc was first advertised, like when I first caught word that it was coming out, I own this on bootleg DVD. Even the bootleg is censored. Even the bootleg, Brad. Where there are no rules, where it was produced in the Thunderdome. But yeah, even this Blu-ray disc is still censored, and to this day I continue to search for a uncensored cut of the movie just to see it. Like just to see it animated beautifully from front to end, like front to back. Because it, like, the transfer on this disc is actually really awesome. But just from time to time, it just looks like absolute dog shit. Like, whenever it gets good, it looks like shit. It's so bizarre.
Do you think there's any hope that that version could be released, or do you think it's pretty much, like, no chance?
The world of licensing and stuff is tricky to begin with, but in this case, my research has pointed me towards it may be lost. Like after that initial theatrical run, I think like the negative of the movie was altered or something. So it may just no longer exist. So it's a maybe. I mean, for fuck's sake, I think they just started advertising a new Super Mario Brothers Blu-ray disc coming out very soon. I think they like used that Super Mario Brothers movie website. Like there's some obsessive fans out there, Brad, that have a website dedicated to restoring like an extended cut of the movie.
Wow.
Yeah. I in my research for that episode of Catching Up on Cinema, I discovered that website, and it's an incredible resource. Like there's some like, you want to talk about fanatics? Those people, wow. Like, you should check it out, Brad. Just for funsies. Like, even if you don't give two shits about the movie, I mean, how could you? But point is, I think they referenced that website in order to obtain some of the quote lost footage for that production and to add it to the disc. So maybe there's hope. If there's super fans out there doing that for Super fucking Mario, I would imagine Fist of the North Star maybe has somebody out there too.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, if the internet's taught me anything, it's that there's enough people in this world that there'll be a small group of people that will get off on anything. So, you name it, there's going to be a small group of people that they'll get off on it, and including Super Mario Brothers
words
movie.
Could not have been spoken, Brad.
Yeah,
it's like no matter what you're talking about, somebody's jerking it to it. Somebody, you know who you are. Anyway, moving on. I have The Punisher, the Australian Punisher, featuring Dolph Lundgren from 1989. This is, of course, a very, very, very Australian film. A lot of people covering their accents in this one. It's kind of hilarious. I kind of like this movie. It's not amazing or anything, but I caught it on like late night cable or something when I was a kid, and I've always had a soft spot for it. But what I was not aware of is that this Umbrella Entertainment disc, an Australian disc publisher, has put out, like, as far as I know, the only fully uncut version of the movie. Again, the image quality differs whenever we're cutting to the non-theatrical footage. But basically, it's just a handful of instances of additional bloodletting. Nothing amazing. Like, it doesn't extend the story or anything. It's just a slightly more violent cut of the movie that, as far as I know, only exists on this disc. And it's a movie I've seen multiple times. I own the DVD, but I only recently, like within the past 5 years, became aware of that thing's existence. So I grabbed it and I watched it, and I was like, again, it looks like total fucking dog shit whenever the good stuff is happening, but it's kind of interesting that it exists and somebody bothered to recut it together, because that took time, that took effort. Even if the footage looks like shit, somebody still had to go back and like match the timing of all the sound effects and like make sure that it doesn't break the fucking movie or anything. And so I thought that was interesting.
Sometimes I actually like when a different cut comes out and like the added in segments are standard definition, because it's kind of nice because you can be like watching it and be like, okay, I know that this is from the this was cut originally. Although if there's enough of it, it can be a little annoying and distracting when it's going like back and forth, like within the same scene. That is a little much. But it's I kind of sometimes like the idea, just in theory.
Yeah, when I'm really putting something under a magnifying glass and I really care to know like if what I'm watching is unique content to that particular cut, that does come in handy. It makes it obvious. It lets you know this is where this cut differs from the one you're most familiar with. So that is like comforting in some circumstances. But like you said, if it's jumping back and forth, it's like the equivalent of listening to like again, like going back into the editing room. Like if you're listening to footage that you're cutting together and the audio levels haven't been adjusted from clip to clip, and it goes every time the camera cuts or something. It's the equivalent of that, but with your eyeballs. Similar to that, though, Brad, I'm glad you brought that up. Very briefly, I'll just point out also an Arrow disc, Robocop. For the longest fucking time, the mainstream version of this movie that was widely available and mostly known to audiences worldwide was the R-rated version. But these days, on this Arrow disc and on some DVDs out there, like I think the Criterion DVD, but not every DVD, they started adding the quote like non-rated or X-rated clips from the movie. And all it is a handful of instances of violence. Additional shots of Ed 209 shooting Mr. Kenny in the beginning. After he falls onto the model city, he continues to shoot him. And then when Murphy is being murdered by Clarence Boddicker and the gang, there's actually an animatronic head, like a bust, that they used to do like a 360 shot to show his head being blown out in one take. In the theatrical cut, that animatronic is really not apparent because we don't get the front side of it. We just have the head blow out. Okay. And then when Robocop stabs his data jack into Clarence Boddicker's neck, there's just a few more seconds of footage of him bleeding and stuff. It's a little bit more gory. But even to this day, even on the Arrow disc, as far as I know, all of those instances of extra violence, while they're now considered like a part of the mainstream cut of the movie, the quality differs. So it's a weird sore spot on something that's like it's almost like what maybe it would have been better to just leave it alone, so the consistency of the image quality is there, because it's like 3 shots. Like it's really not a whole lot, but it's just, if you squint at it, it's just like, oh, that didn't look quite as good. Something's weird there.
I was gonna say, I was like, yeah, that would be because you're watching RoboCop with just somebody who is just like an average person, doesn't really care much about Blu-rays and alternate cuts. They don't care about that, and they'd be watching it and they'd be like, "Oh, that's odd. Why did the quality change there?" And then you'd have to explain the different cuts. But then I was thinking about it as like, the average person is so terrible with like picture quality they wouldn't even notice probably. Like they'd just be like, oh, these are the people that still buy DVDs. Like get rid of it.
Yeah, they're still raiding their local Walmart bargain bin for copies of Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance on DVD. But
why would I buy it on Blu-ray or 4K? It looks fine on DVD.
It looks just fine on DVD.
Yeah. Get real.
But yeah, it's a weird thing though, that I actually got to see that transition, where I actually got to see the most common version of the movie change in real time. Because in my day, when I was buying Robocop on DVD, I had to hunt down the super duper special version of it with the Robocop shaped box in order to get those precious few seconds of additional violence, because most versions of the movie that existed in physical form or anywhere were not that. But these days it's widely available, so it's like, you kids don't even know how spoiled y'all are. It's like, in my day, Murphy got shot right quick. Like, for you get to see him walk around and have it be extra horrible. But real quick, I'll also say that I have a German DVD. This company is it Digi Dream Studios? Ugh, they sound reliable. Anyway, this is a German Blu-ray of The Guyver, which of course, oh wow, that's kind of cool. So the American cover art for this movie features Mark Hamill's face here. Mark Hamill doesn't play the Guyver in this movie, Brad.
Oh, okay.
But for advertising purposes, they put him inside of the helmet.
Yeah.
Anyway, this movie's based on a manga that was one of the first manga I ever read. My cousin subjected me to it. It is incredibly violent and not for kids. Didn't matter. My cousin didn't give a shit. But this movie features some incredible makeup effects from Screaming Mad George. I'm sure you're familiar with his work. But it's weird because I saw on television when I was very young the uncut version of this movie, and then thereafter I could never find it again. Like, I remember watching it on VHS, like, at a friend's house, and I was like, hang on. There's some more cool violence that's supposed to happen there. What the fuck happened to that? Like, he's supposed to take the guy's arm off there. Like, what? His arms are still on him. And apparently it was a last minute censorship thing or something, such that there exists two different cuts of the movie. It's the difference of just a couple of seconds of violence. But for me, I was like, if I'm going to own this movie, I'm going to own the version that has the monster getting its arm ripped off. God damn it. Yeah. So I hunted down the German Blu-ray because apparently that's the only Blu-ray of the movie that exists completely uncut. Not that it's a good movie to begin with, but like I said, I'm a fan of the manga, and the gooey makeup effects and the monsters and stuff actually are very impressive, even if the movie itself is kind of a stinker, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I never heard of that one, actually. I don't think.
You might want to check it out. Like I said, it's not good by traditional standards. It's a little cringy, to be honest. Like, some of the dialogue in particular, some of the humor in particular is real bad. But it has a fun cast. Jeffrey Combs is in there, as is the other doctor from Reanimator. So it's like a reunion of the makeup effects team and those actors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mark Hamill's there, so you get that as well. And Michael Berryman from The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, yeah.
He has a fun role in there too. So it's fun if you're into like the horror stuff and like the goopy monster makeup and stuff. But in terms of the tone and the humor and stuff, it's pretty fucking cringy. The sequel though actually legitimately has some really awesome martial arts and I've told you before, maybe even on the show, Brad, one of the finest instances of overkill in cinema history. Where it's just it's the Ralph. No, it's not Ralph Wiggum, but it's the Ralph voice from The Simpsons. Stop! He's already dead. Like, he has to kill him 5 times before he hits the floor, and it's tremendous.
Yeah. Now, does that version? I know you said there's a Reanimator reunion. Is Barbara Crampton in the film at all?
No, Barbara Crampton. No, like no talent from Barbara Crampton.
No sale.
Yeah, she is a selling point. Actually, I've been getting a lot of advertisements from her and Larry Fessenden's Instagrams. They have that vampire movie that came out not too long ago.
Yeah.
It looked kind of fun.
Yeah, is that a Shudder film? It seems like it would be.
I don't know where it was released, but I follow both of them on the Instagram, and yeah, it actually looks kind of neat. Some of the behind the scenes photos of it looked like they had a lot of fun making it, and you know, they're both pretty talented individuals, so it might be worth a look. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Brad, the ball is to you, sir. What you got?
Well, you know, didn't want to do it. I wasn't planning on doing this, but
oh no,
I gotta say, I mean, you've never teed somebody up as perfectly as you just did, because a movie featuring multiple cuts that we just literally referenced is Re-Animator, which I own the Arrow Blu-ray of, the limited edition box set. This was I don't even know if I should get into the whole story of this.
Please. I don't know the story, so
let's just say that you know, you go on Blu-ray.com, you go in the forums, and this was coming out, and someone posts like, "Hey, Amazon has this limited edition set with the booklet, Blu-ray, everything." They were like $14.99 right now, 14, and everyone's like, "Oh, go!" And so everybody went and bought it or pre-ordered it or whatever it was at that price, me included. And I remember it came out, the Blu-ray was released, Amazon still said waiting on delivery, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like 2 months later, it got updated, their page, and they sent us an email and said, "Oh, sorry, because of a lack of stock or something like that, we had to cancel your order at that price." And I was like, what the hell? This is garbage. This is bullshit. And then even more bullshit, as soon as I got that email, or maybe it was a couple days later, I don't know, I went on Amazon's website, I went on Amazon.com, looked up the Reanimator Blu-ray, all of a sudden back in stock but full price. And I said, oh, somebody messed up, and they had said, we can't fulfill this many $14.99 Reanimator Blu-rays, and they had to cancel some more. So I called them out. I was like, yo, there's no way this is a coincidence. I said, I pre-ordered, you promised that price. I locked it in. You can't back out now. And they did honor that price. Thankfully, I had to put their feet to the flame, but Amazon did honor the great price. I mean, like, come on, you get this, you get an amazing set here. Like, look, this is gorgeous. I mean, $14.99. Two discs here. Of course, let's get into the reason for the season. The unrated version and the integral. Integral. Integral? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this one, so I didn't look too closely into the different cuts. But also, you got great booklet. You got some comic. You got a comic in it. I mean, come on.
Cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I like Reanimator. I don't love it. I mean, I do love Barbara Crampton in it. She is amazing. But I think it's a fun film. You know, I love the effects, love the gore. I do believe the integral version is longer, and the I don't know why I was pronouncing it wrong. I believe it does say this was the first time that version is available in the U.S. It says on the back here. So that is 105 minutes, and the unrated cut is 86 minutes.
Whoa.
So I again, I don't remember which one I watched last. I'm guessing, if I'm unsure, I usually go with whatever is on disc 1. So I probably just went with the unrated version, the 86-minute version. But yeah, I guess technically this must have at least 3 different cuts then, because the unrated, the integral, and then there must be a standard R-rated version. Which I don't think that is on this set. I think it's just the unrated and the long one, the 105-minute one. But yeah, it's a fun horror film. I've actually never seen the sequels. I keep meaning to, even though I'm pretty sure they're a step down. But yeah, I mean, you're mostly there just for the effects. And this is one where definitely I could see the 105-minute runtime maybe hurting the film, because you know, you're kind of just there for the gore. It's just kind of a fun, goofy B-horror movie, and beefing up the runtime by that much definitely could drag it down. I don't know exactly what they include to add on that runtime, but very interesting. But yeah, it's an awesome set. So thank you, Amazon, for honoring your price eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
No, I actually haven't seen Reanimator either. I'm well aware of its reputation, and I forget, is it Stuart Gordon that directed that one? Or
Yes, I think so.
I get for whatever reason, I get Brian Usna and Stuart Gordon confused because one of them does like producing and directing, and they've collaborated multiple times, so I get their work confused oftentimes.
Yeah, directed by Stuart Gordon, produced by Brian Usna.
Yeah, like I said, they've collaborated so many times, it's like I get my wires crossed all the time. But yeah, I'm well aware of its reputation. I think I've heard that Beyond Reanimator, at the very least, is a fun time. I can't speak for the sequels beyond that. I do know a stage version of it exists.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd actually be curious to see what that looks like, because I've seen like clips, but I've never seen the whole thing. But I bet that's a lot of fun. In fact, I think Stuart Gordon produced the stage version. So he very much like tied in with that work. He kept up with the legacy of it. But I mean, Jeffrey Combs is great. He really goes for broke, like with everything he works on. He's one of those guys, kind of like a Brad Dourif, where it's like he's a little too funky looking to like be the mainstream guy, like the mainstream leading man. But it's like he's so good. It's like, man, find a way to work him into whatever you're working on, because they're both gonna just give you gold. Only problem is, like I said, they're both like not meant to be the main guy on whatever movie they're working on.
Yeah, I mean, you forget, like, at least I forget that watching the first Reanimator, he's not the main character. I mean, everybody imagine, like, that's the first thing you think of is him in this movie. Maybe Barbara Crampton, maybe you think of her first. But you certainly don't. I don't even know the other guy's name. He does not pop to mind as the face of Reanimator, whoever he is.
Well, it's a convention that Kyle had me read a book about the history of horror movies a while back, and like there's the convention of the breeding pair. It's thought of as a required element to tell like your typical horror story. Is like, we can have all sorts of off the wall characters, we can have a mad scientist in there, but at the end of the day, it's generally accepted that most audiences like take comfort in having just like your basic vanilla ass like man and woman couple, like to just like lean into.
Barbara Crampton, far from vanilla.
Far from vanilla. Yeah. she's
talking praline pecan, if you follow me here.
No, she's as they would call in the acting community, fearless. She is willing to do a lot of the things not all actors are willing to do. But yeah, I've heard very good things about Reanimator, and at least Beyond Reanimator. I've very much wanted to get around to watching them, because I have seen my fair share of Usna and Gordon movies over the years, some of which I've definitely featured Jeffrey Combs at the very least, probably many of the other cast members as well. I forget, I think it was just Brian Usna worked on the Necronomicon movie, but the two of them definitely touch on Lovecraftian fiction quite regularly throughout their filmographies. And Jeffrey Combs has a small role in Necronomicon, and it's not even an astounding movie, but it does have that fun anthology format that I always go for. What you got there, Brett?
I've got Beyond Reanimator, just the Vestron release of it.
Oh, what number?
So, this is Vestron 15. So, I do think I think Bride of Reanimator comes in between these two, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know the order. I thought Beyond came next, but I could be wrong.
I guess I could be wrong too. But I mean, this one came out in 2003.
Oh, well, yeah, then Bride is definitely the
I would think, yeah. But I haven't seen either of them, so.
Well, folks at home, if you're not aware, Brad is on the Vestron train. He has all the Vestron titles, as far as I'm aware.
I've got them all lined up now.
That's right. That's right, baby. Got them all in numbered order.
Yeah.
DVD and Blu-ray publishers out there, if you want Brad's money, just put a number on the spine.
And don't release anything too regularly. Like if they were releasing like 2 or 3 of these a month, I wouldn't be able to keep up. But they just got that perfect schedule, or they release just enough where I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll pop. I'll keep the streak going.
just kind of like pulling out your wallet. It's like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
All right.
And they carry them usually at Walmart, so you're there to get some Cheetos mac and cheese, and it's like, all right, I'll put Beyond Reanimator in my cart. All right, you convinced me.
Well, I mean, it's like buying condoms or something. You have to do it casual, like where it's like some mac and cheese and bread of Reanimator.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I suppose the ball is to me again. So I'm gonna cheat again, as usual, and I'm gonna maybe introduce something that I don't know if you've ever encountered this before, Brad. This might be something unique, at least for your filmmaking, like your experiences in cinema. Anyway, so in the world of Japanese animation, anime, it is fairly common, as I pointed out with Fist of the North Star, to take a story that is meant to be told over God knows how many fucking chapters and try to smash it into a theatrical runtime. Consequences be damned. In best case scenarios, at the very least, the animation you get is of a higher caliber than you would get from like a weekly television show or something. So the trade-off is animation quality in favor, like, over story, because it's impossible to tell that much story given the time frame. So this is a thing that they do semi-regularly, is they try to do that. They take an entire television, like a season of television, and smash it into a 90-minute cut. Sometimes they alter the animation, sometimes they don't. So sometimes it's interesting to look at, sometimes it's absolutely jarring and kind of ugly. Anyway, I have the Mobile Suit Gundam, the original 1979 television series. This is 3 movies that encapsulate the entirety of probably like an 80-episode television series.
Wow.
So for people like me who are allergic to television format, to the long-form series format, things like this are a godsend. However, for people like my girlfriend who actually care about stories and details and things of that nature, this shit drives her up the walls, because like I don't know who these people are. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Who is that? Why is he going there? How did that happen? How many people died in between cuts? But for someone like me, this is a way for me to experience a television show from the fucking 70s in like 6 hours or something. And as far as I know, the animation for this one is ripped directly from the television series, so it's not particularly handsome to look at, because it's all animation produced on a television budget. But it is fascinating to see them try desperately to tell a coherent story while making just cutting huge chunks out of the story entirely. Like entire story arcs, entire characters are just excised from the thing.
So who would that be for? Is that because that wouldn't be necessary? They wouldn't make that for the fans of the show, would they? Or is it to try and attract a new audience? Or
I have one here in front of me that I'm about to show you that would be for fans. This I want to say is probably for next generation audiences. So for people like me who were not around in the 70s, who couldn't possibly have seen this thing, it's a shortcut. It's a way, like, if you're curious and you actually want to know most of the story, this is a faster way to go about it. So it's a way to cheat your way through the television series, essentially. And I'm not such a fanatic that I do the thing that, oh my God, Brad, like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are people online that it's like becoming standard practice to like watch television and podcasts at accelerated rates. Like at 1.5 times speed, or like 2 or 3 times speed. And to me, that's just like, it's just like that's you don't do that. Like that's just not done. I know it's an option. Like we have the technology, but are you really enjoying it? Like, or are you just, or do you really just want to hit your Letterboxd account and say I done did it? It's like, no, that shouldn't be the point of getting to the end of something. You should actually digest it. You should actually take it in the way it was intended to be. Stuff like that drives me nuts. Like to learn that there are communities of people that this is normal. Like that's what they do. It's like,
yeah, I definitely doing it for a film is very odd for me. I don't think I've ever watched
for a
anything
podcast
like that.
for a podcast maybe. Like
It's a little more. I mean, 1.5 for a podcast, especially if it's just a conversation.
Yeah,
because it's kind of like you're just retaining everything that they're saying. I'm
podcast
okay
is
with
a
that.
maybe. Podcast is a maybe. Movie though, it's like I don't know how many times, even over just the course of this conversation, Brad, we've used the word pace or pacing. That's so much of what describes a good movie is the skillfulness of at which the story is relayed to you at the correct pace. Like finding that correct rhythm is the sign of skillful filmmaking in a lot of ways. So to me, it's just like mind-boggling. It's like anyway. So that the Gundam trilogy, that's a television series. As far as I know, they didn't really alter the animation for that. But this Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, a new translation. This was the second Gundam television series from the 80s. It's often regarded as one of the shining stars of the Gundam canon. This was actually produced like under the watchful eye of the original creator of the whole Gundam series, Yoshiyuki Tomino. So he actually had a hand in this production. But what this is this came out in the 2000s, like when I was in high school, and they actually did reanimate chunks of it. So they did use mostly television footage, but I think they re-recorded most of the voice work, definitely redid a lot of the sound, and just completely reanimated chunks of it. So it's like the equivalent of like the Star Wars special edition, the original trilogy, that is. Mm-hmm. So there are additional scenes, or there are like important moments that are more heavily punctuated by the higher quality animation. It's very, very, very jarring because we're talking like 2000s era animation techniques inserted into 1980s animation techniques. Like they don't look at all similar. Like it is readily apparent whenever you're seeing new footage. And in addition to that, like I was shocked that they changed the ending. Like I'm fully aware of the original ending of the television series, and it is dark. Like it's not a happy ending, but they changed the ending for the movies, which again were released in the 2000s, likely in the hopes of like roping in a new generation of fans. And I guess somebody decided maybe it would sit better with audiences to have like a more upbeat ending. And for me, I was like watching it, and I was like, whoa! That didn't happen. like what happened here? It's like, no, he's supposed to have a real bad time. It's like, he's okay. It's like, never mind.
Interesting.
But it's a very strange way to go about like assembling a movie, like using television footage, like heaps and heaps of television footage. We're talking tens of hours of footage, like edited footage, and assembling it into essentially like 3 90-minute films. It is coherent. It's not particularly substantive, but it's something that is fairly regularly done in that industry. So it's something I can't think of existing outside of anime, honestly.
Yeah, that's pretty. I'd never heard of that, to be honest. Man, like I wish they would do that with like Supernatural or something. One of these shows that's got like 15 seasons. Like, how am I ever gonna watch that shit? You know what I mean?
I mean, that I've said it before. That's why I don't watch a lot of television. Is because the runtime is just, it's intimidating. It scares me away, honestly. So things like this are a godsend for me, where it's like I can get the biggest bullet points. I can see all the most important story events and some of like the best eye candy or whatever. But then I can just skip all the stuff, all the inessential elements of it.
Yeah.
And it helps that Gundam isn't particularly well known for its characterization. Like it's like kind of dog shit, to be honest. Like I could not care less about most of the characters. It's very much like a world story. So like, I don't know, for something like Supernatural or your average American television show, I would imagine that would be like missing the point, because so much of those shows is like people just get enamored with the characters and just want to hang out with them. Like my girlfriend was telling me about the last season of The Mentalist, where she described it as a victory lap, where it's like it has no reason whatsoever to exist. Like the story's over, but they just made an entire season of fan service just because there was demand for it. So it's just like an additional 12, 13 episodes of just hangout time with the characters you like. So something like this would probably not sit well with people who are more tailored to those types of experiences. But for me, who doesn't give a shit, and it's just here to see the robots blow each other up, cool.
Yeah. Don't waste my time, you know?
Don't waste my motherfucking time. Give me all you got. Give me all you got.
I don't have the soundboard pulled up right now. Otherwise, I'd give you one of those.
He'll be rising. Maybe he'll leave a note right on the door. Folks, if you haven't seen the movie Heat, maybe just Google that. Just Google the phrase, "Don't waste my motherfucking time," and then you've seen Heat. I mean, you haven't, but you'll at least have common knowledge of that.
Yeah. It's better than watching it at 1.5 speed. Just watching that one clip and saying you've seen Heat. At least then you're.
Oh my God, Heat at 1.5 times speed. Like anything Michael Mann at 1.5 times speed. That's just like missing the point.
Yeah.
Like honestly, that's like the perfect director to key in on. It's like his movies have a kind of like lackadaisical pace to them from time to time. They ramp up for sure, but like in between, it's like we're taking our time. It's like we're just gonna hang out with Ashley Judd in her badly dyed hair, and we're gonna watch Robert De Niro tell her to shut up.
Yeah,
that's another audio clip I'm a big fan of. Is her telling him, "I'm sick of it. Shut up."
That's a good one too. That is a good one. Yeah,
He just jumps right down her fucking throat. I have other examples of this. I'll just rattle them off. We don't have to discuss these, but I just wanted to point out that Ghost in the Shell 2.0. This is a Mamoru Oshii movie. I really love his stuff. Only reason I bring this up is that this is not an alternative cut, but they digitally like changed the coloring of the movie. So that's what the 2.0 refers to, is that there was a sequel to Ghost in the Shell and a couple of television series after the original film that had a drastically different color palette to the original film, which came out in the 90s and was done mostly analog in terms of animation, whereas the sequel and the other ones were mostly digital. So the color palette of the first film is largely green. Think The Matrix. This is not green, Brad.
No.
And the original version of the movie exists on this disc. However, the 2.0 version of the movie just like digitally alters all the animation to have this kind of like amber/golden flare to it.
Huh, interesting.
And they put a lot of time and money into it, and it's just like, to me, it's just like, that is not the movie I know. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's so radically different. It's bizarre. So I guess the idea was to make it more consistent with that which came before.
Yeah, that's kind of gross.
Yeah, no, I am not a big fan of it. I've never watched it front to back. Like I've watched the 95 version or whatever, but 2.0, suck my dick. Like, I don't want none of that. But real quick, I'll also point out I have another Gundam, Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. I only have the DVD because, for fuck's sake, the Blu-ray is like $45 fucking dollars. And yeah, it's kind of ridiculous for a fairly short movie. But and I also have Macross Plus on DVD. And the reason I'm holding both of these up at the same time is that this is another formatting thing that I'm curious if you've ever encountered this, Brad, because I want to say this only happens with anime. We have two different formats. We have original video animation, OVA, and movie. So both of these products exist on these discs in both of those forms. And essentially what that means is one is cut up into episodes and was meant to be consumed via like VHS tapes. And then there's a version of the same story that cuts it all together into a feature-length product. usually they make small additions to the theatrical cut. Now, the argument between these two products is that this one's better as a movie, and this one's better as an OVA. Apparently, people have disagreements, but that's generally what is regarded as... And this is exactly what you were talking about, Brad, when you said you hate the fact that there exist different cuts of things, because there are arguments, there are people online that bitch and moan about which one they like best. So as it stands, most people prefer this as a movie and this as a series of episodes. They feel the pacing is enhanced in this version because of the interludes, like because of the opening and ending credits, songs and whatnot. Even though the movie version of this features additional footage, apparently it's not anything that people felt was essential. This one does feature additional footage, and in editing together the multiple episodes into a singular film, it actually greatly enhances it. And I tend to agree, at least with this one. This one, I'm a little bit more on the fence. Both excellent, by the way. This one, especially, Brad, you might want to check out. It's Macross Plus is fucking awesome.
Okay.
It's one of those things that when you Google it, probably the first search result you'll get, and I'm predicting this, first search, if not top 5, will be a YouTube music video utilizing Highway to the Danger Zone. That's my guess. I haven't done the research. I haven't checked. But that's my bet. Because
is that from the movie, or is that like a fan edit thing?
Fan edit.
Okay.
Most certainly a fan edit.
All right. But yeah, that seems pretty cool. But unfortunately, you got to do research before you watch it, because you got to which cut am I watching here? I mean, just.
Well, like I said, the OVA for Macross Plus, movie for Gundam Wing Endless Waltz.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, not that you're going to get around to it anytime soon, but Macross Plus actually is exceptional. I will say that much. And it's fairly self-contained as well. It actually tells a good story, even if you don't know anything about that world. I can stand by that because I don't know anything about Macross, but I still thoroughly enjoy that.
That's pretty impressive, then. That's pretty good.
I'd say so. Anyway, I've been ranting and rambling for quite some time. Brad, what else you got?
All right, I'll mention something here. A film that this one, I mean, I don't know if we've really gotten into the different cuts that. I mean, I don't want this one. Maybe isn't a good example, but you could maybe look at it as just an attempt to cash in on a different version, because this version only available on Blu-ray or 4K, and you had to pay a very hefty amount to receive a very beautiful but oversized collector's edition to get this director's cut. So I don't know if it was actually, I haven't done any research into it, to be honest, but how much of it was a cashola incentive, and how much of it was this was actually what the director wanted. I don't know. But anyway, this one is Midsommar, or Midsommar, the director's cut, which was put out on a very expensive A24 Blu-ray here. It was also available on 4K. I did just get the Blu-ray. I don't know if it was because of cost. I can't remember. But anyway, I mean, this is a really cool set, and I don't love Midsommar. I liked it. I've only seen it the one time, so I have not watched this version, actually. I need to get around to it. But
the fuck you doing?
Well, it's long, man. I mean, how long is this version? I mean, it's you got to plan out. It's your whole night. Like, this isn't something you can just pop on. But I mean, you got really cool stuff in the booklet here. I'm gonna try to screen anything I show, because there's some very graphic images in this booklet.
I appreciate that. We want to keep this YouTube safe, Brad.
Yeah, we do. We have an introduction from Martin Scorsese in here. Let's see. That one, well, definitely not that one. Definitely not that. I don't know. That looks vaguely sexual. Maybe I just won't show any of these.
Okay, that's fair.
I think this one's okay. This one, yeah, this one looks okay. But it's like, this is the most family friendly.
She got a fire on her crotch. I don't know, man.
Oh, well. I mean, that's just the design of the dress. But that's the most family friendly image in this book. Let's just say that.
Okay. Handsome
yeah,
package, though. Very handsome.
it is
package.
very handsome. I mean, it's kind of. I actually kind of like the fact that it's so big that there's like just no chance of it fitting on your shelf normally. I like that more than something that's like half there, where it's like I could squeeze this on the shelf if I turn it on its side. There's no chance of fitting this on my shelf, so I have to separate it out. But that's okay. But yeah, I like Midsommar. I like Hereditary more. I don't know. Again, I've only seen it the one time, but it just felt like once it just kind of hit like the beats that you expected it to, with it being like a film about a cult and these Americans from outside going there. It seemed like, which it kind of lays that out ahead of time, but I was expecting maybe something a little more unconventional, but it's still very well made. I mean, Ari Aster is a great filmmaker from the 2 movies he's made. But yeah, I would like to watch the director's cut. See, I don't know if it would change my opinion at all, or if I would just think that the film was too long. But either way, I had to own this, especially because it was I don't know if you can still get it, but it was like limited when they announced it and came out with it.
Well, yeah, I would challenge you to try to get that in before we're through October, because damn, like that is quite the handsome package, and I enjoyed that movie enough that I myself actually would be curious to see what it's an A24 disc, and it says "Big as Loud and Twice as Ugly" on the cover, director's cut. That to me, coming from a company like A24, actually carries weight, because director's cut is one of those terms that gets thrown around pretty fast and loose, where it's like it's not actually a director's cut, it's usually just an extended cut. Like a true director's cut is a cut performed under the supervision of the director of the film. Case in point, like virtually any Ridley Scott movie out there. I'm surprised we haven't gotten to him yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like I said, just the fact that it's Ari Aster and it is a true director's cut, or at least I assume it is, I actually would be curious to see what that is, because I agree with you. Like I didn't think it was on the same level as Hereditary, but it was very visually striking, certainly engaging, very, very tense at times. But I think you hit the nail on the head with the word conventional. It was unexpectedly what I expected it to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if the additional footage made for a more complex experience. Because I don't have anything bad to say about it. It's just like sometimes you get exactly what you expect out of something. And I did enjoy, I guess you'd call it like allegory, or some of the parallels in the narrative in regards to the characterization of our protagonist. Like I really enjoyed some of that stuff, where it's like it's not beating you over the fucking head with it, but it's like the skillfulness of the filmmaking is such that it's like, I don't think anybody, even the people in the cheap seats, they're not going to miss this. So it's like it's well done in that sense. But yeah, I would hope you get around to watching that sometime, because I'm curious to hear about it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, I could like it more, but it could also be the thing where it's like, okay, now it's a half hour longer, and now it's just a half hour longer to get to the same point that I thought was pretty predictable by the end of the first one. But I'm definitely gonna, next time I watch the film, will definitely be the director's cut. That's for sure.
I mean, there's certainly some cuts. There's certainly some moments in there that I think a lot of people agree were somewhat jarring. Where it's like, oh, that's how we introduce that character. They're just there. Interesting. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that was handled a little bit differently. In an extended cut of the movie, maybe a little bit more delicately, because as it stands, it's jarring, but that's kind of the problem. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, face. But yeah, I hope you get around to watching that, because it is a handsome box at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll report back to you.
Please do. And I agree with you. Sometimes it's better to go just balls out and make it a big ugly box, because I have exactly one Blu-ray on my shelf that was sold to me like without it being disclosed. I think it was from like a secondhand or something, in a unofficial like Blu-ray case that's like 5 millimeters taller than your average case, and it's the biggest fucking eyesore on my shelf because it still fits, but it's just like there's this little blue hat poking up above all the other products on the shelf. And it's like, it's like I'd rather you be big and ugly, so I have to separate you from the rest of these.
Can you just buy a replacement, like a regular Blu-ray case, or?
I'm thinking about doing that, or buying a piece of shit movie that I know I don't give a shit about and just using that case, because like in looking for just like loose Blu-ray cases for sale, they're actually more expensive than you'd hope.
Yeah. No, I know all about that. When I bought the Children of the Corn from Arrow, and it came in a blue Arrow case instead of a clear one, and I had to panic and find where I could buy a clear case on eBay.
Yeah, that was a dark day in the Brad household.
Yeah, thank God I found one, because there was not many when I was looking. I think people were snatching them up left and right.
Yeah, no, I feel your pain. I know what it feels like to have that just one eyesore sticking out on your shelf. That's like, you fuck. You did that on purpose.
Yeah.
You changed yourself to a blue case.
So I've got a blue Arrow case I can send you if you want that, I guess.
Nah, the Arrow cases themselves generally have like a more rigid structure to them, so they stand out on their own even without the colorization. But I'm thinking about just like buying some like $2 Blu-ray that I know I don't even really want or something, or maybe maybe one that I already have, and just because it's probably cheaper than just buying the case on its own.
It's not a bad idea. Or no, tell you what you do: a movie you already have that you upgrade to 4K. Then you take the Blu-ray and just, you don't need it anymore. Toss that shit.
I might actually still have my case for Skyfall laying around, because the Bond... Oh my god, webcams are hard. The Bond box that my finger's pointing at right now had a slot for Skyfall when you bought it, and I just happen to have Skyfall separately from it.
Okay.
So I may have that case floating around somewhere in this apartment, so I'll get on that.
Good idea.
But I suppose the ball is to me. So I'll just keep this one simple. I'm still gonna cheat though.
Eating a lot today, man.
I know. I pulled a lot of shit off the shelf, and I'm kind of excited to show it off. So, I have. Well, I guess I'll start with the lie. I'll start with the bullshit. And actually, this is a sign of maybe bad things to come. So I have here, Rambo: Last Blood on Blu-ray. This movie's not very good. As much as I generally enjoy the Rambo movies, this one felt kind of just like, why?
I didn't know there was other cuts of that.
There are, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, because it's not on this disc, Brad.
Oh, actually, I take it back. I do know about this.
It is the international cut of the movie that I don't know if it exists in a physical medium. But there is an extended cut of this movie that you can stream. It's readily available on streaming. In fact, it may even be the default version of the movie on streaming. But the one that you can pick up from your Walmart bargain bin doesn't have it. And as far as I know, there may not even be a disc version of the movie that has it. But yeah, there is an extended cut. And all it really is a prologue that actually kind of needs to be in the movie, honestly. Like, it actually makes for a slightly more enjoyable experience. Actually, there is more. There is quite a bit more, in fact. None of it is action-oriented, which is surprising. It's all story. Like, it's all story and character building that actually does make for a better movie. Like, it's longer, and, given the general reputation of this movie, I can understand why they just want to hack it to pieces and just be like, make it short. Like, at the very least, make people's experience with this film short. Get them in, get them out. We gotta circulate. I could see that being the rationale behind making the cuts, but the additional footage is a prologue where Rambo is like searching for people and I think like cattle in the wilderness in the middle of a rainstorm, and it features some really horrendous CGI. But it's this sequence where like people lives are lost and Rambo doesn't win in the end, and it actually sets the tone pretty well. As far as I recall, the opening of the disc version of the movie it just kind of opens. It just begins. But that opening sequence is kind of it's important. And then in addition to that, the villains get a lot more dialogue. Like there's two brothers that serve as the principal villains throughout the movie. That in the international cut of the movie, they get a little bit more to them. They have their relationship is a bit more fleshed out, and it makes you care just that slight bit more about what's happening in the movie. I don't think any of the additional scenes detract from the experience at all. It's just vexing and bizarre. Like I don't entirely understand the rationale behind not putting that content on the disc.
Yeah, I do remember when the movie first came out, hearing about it now. But yeah, that was something completely blocked from my mind. I mean, the movie itself was basically blocked from my mind as well. But
yeah, it's not amazing. Even the bloodlighting, I could have used maybe just a different take on it. Like, it's like, I get it, Sylvester Stallone can't move the same way he used to, but it's like, does it all have to be traps? Like, can we have like a punch thrown in anger or something? Just a little bit more tooth and nail, as opposed to like, he's not in the room when most of these people die. Like, it just takes out some of the fun knowing that he's not even there to see it happen half the time. But it's definitely the least of the Rambo series, but it is what it is. But on that same note, we have another Stallone product, the Expendables extended director's cut, and this is a true director's cut. Stallone was involved in the production of this particular edit. It does actually have some additional supplements regarding the crafting of this particular cut in the movie, but this is a curiosity. This is not anything that I would tell you to rush out and buy. In fact, I resisted buying this, but the Stallone fan in me just couldn't help himself. I just had to at some point. And it is extended. It's not improved in any way as far as I know. There's a little bit more characterization. Like, I think Dolph Lundgren gets some more dialogue in here. I think Jet Li gets some more dialogue. Randy Couture, unfortunately, I think gets some more dialogue. Didn't need that. The bloodletting is enhanced. There is more action. There is more violence. They do the thing much like they would do with a comedy, where they insert the equivalent of B-reel, but punches instead of gags. And it's like, ooh, you definitely probably should have cut that out. It's like, it's more. It's like, I'm glad to see more people get punched in the face, but it's like that wasn't like top tier face punching. It's like there's a reason that was left on the cutting room floor. But the weirdest thing about this cut is that the timing of the music is fucked with, because they added footage. A lot of the music, Brian Tyler does the score for the Expendables movies. I think he also does the Fast and Furious movies as well, so it has that particular flavor to it. But the score for the Expendables movies is overly masculine and like booming. It's not actually that bad, honestly. The score for the movies is not terrible. But what's really weird about this cut is that you can actually hear the music like skipping around a little bit, because they had to stretch it, because they had more footage added to music that seemingly was composed to the timing of the edit they were working with for the final product. And it's really ugly from time to time, where your ear's just like, oh, whoa. It's like you're on the school bus with your Walkman and you hit a bump. And it's just like, oh. But it's not an essential cut in the movie by any means. It's more of a curiosity than anything else. But let's close things by saying Deadpool 2, super duper cut. Similar case, actually. Because it has additional scenes, some of the scenes I think are moved around as well. I almost felt like I preferred the theatrical edition, because there is more action, there is a bit more characterization, but again, they ran into that weird problem where there's more footage here, so we need to make sure the soundtrack balances out with it. And if memory serves, the opening of the movie features the song 9 to 5 the Dolly Parton tune.
Yeah.
But in the extended version, I think they just took out the song and replaced it with something else because the timing didn't match because they added so much extra action elements to it. But I seem to recall preferring the theatrical cut of the movie after having watched both of them. That's actually one that I'd like to go back and revisit because I remember enjoying it quite a bit.
Didn't Deadpool 2 also have that Once Upon a Deadpool cut where it was like the PG-13 version?
Yeah, I don't have that, but thanks for reminding me. Yeah, that is it. If we're talking curiosities, that's a really interesting example of one where it's like,
Yeah.
All signs point to it maybe being like the last gasp of Fox Studios before the Disney merger or something, where it's like we just want to put out something before we close the doors permanently. Like they're still in business or whatever, but their ownership changed, and the timing just matched up a little too perfectly, if memory serves. But yeah, there is a disc version. It was also released in theaters of Deadpool 2. In a PG-13 rating, apparently with additional scenes with Fred Savage, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen it myself, but I wouldn't be totally opposed to checking it out just because it's such an oddity. Like, I really can't think of many instances of something like that being done with a film.
Yeah, that's definitely curiosity. And, some versions, it's kind of interesting, like with certain cuts where if they change things enough, it's almost like you say it's a different film. You know what I mean? Like if I watched that, I would not say I watched Deadpool 2. I would say I watched Once Upon a Deadpool. I mean, they give it its own title. And I wonder, that's a good question. Is Once Upon a Deadpool loggable on Letterboxd? I bet you it is.
I bet you it is, and I wouldn't be surprised if the MPAA or whatever, I mean, they definitely had to rate it differently, so it's probably chronicled as a separate product entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure the runtime is dramatically different as well.
Yep, it is loggable on Letterboxd as a separate film. So,
okay, well, I should check that out just to see what it is, because until you mentioned it, I actually kind of forgot about that.
Yeah,
okay.
I thought that's what you were gonna say when you pulled out Deadpool 2. I didn't realize there was just a super duper cut.
No, I totally forgot. So I'm glad you brought it up. But anyway, that's about it for me on that one. But what you got next, Brad?
I'll mention this one, which actually I had you on my show just a couple weeks ago, and this is one I actually talked about then, but I'll bring it up now because it does fit in nicely with the alternate cuts. And this one is Black Sabbath from Mario Bava. You were on when I mentioned this, right? I think. I'm pretty sure.
You didn't show me the cover, but I seem to remember it coming up.
Yeah, this is the one where I mentioned the corpse and
yes,
okay.
You made me look up a still of the corpse, the magnificent corpse.
So this is obviously Mario Bava, Italian director, and this is a horror anthology from 1963. It does feature 3 different stories, and I guess the main difference from the 2 different versions. One is the AIP English language version of the film, and the other one is like the original Italian. The main difference, I guess, is that the stories are presented in a different order. So on this version, it is presented as the one with the corpse that is haunting the woman is the first story. Then there's a sort of slightly giallo-influenced story about a guy calling a woman on a phone. That's the second story. And then the third story is the last one on this cut, and that one features Boris Karloff as what they call a Wurzelak, which is a version of a vampire. Like it's a Polish version of the vampire or something. I don't know, but the Wurzelak is some sort of vampire in lore, and that's actually the longest version. I don't know what the order is in the other version, but I know it's not that one. Also, the version with the story with the telephone, the man calling the woman on the telephone, in this version, she's getting these calls, and she goes to her friend and is like, oh, this is really scary. I'm getting these calls, blah, blah, blah. And in the international version, it is, I guess, made more clear that they are lovers, her and her friend. And in this one, they kind of remove all hints from that. and cut it down for that. And the only other main difference that I know of, which I'm bummed is not in this version that I own, is I guess at the end of the film, because each story is presented by Boris Karloff, and I guess there's the final like shot of the film is Boris Karloff on a horse, and at the end it like pulls back and reveals that the horse is a fake and that he's on a set, and it just kind of like breaks the fourth wall kind of thing, and sounds really cool. And I don't think that is in this version. I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that unless I fell asleep, which maybe happened. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I wish, because you can. This is from Kino, and it does say on the back in the description, it says this is the AIP English language version of the film. I kind of wish I didn't know at the time when I bought this that the Italian seems to be the preferred version. Otherwise, I would have bought that. And Kino does have a sale right now. I am kind of tempted to buy the Italian version separately. I mean, because those prices are pretty cheap, but I can't imagine I'm going to watch this again anytime soon. So maybe I'll wait for the Kino sale after this one. But you can get both versions from Kino on disc, just unfortunately they're not packaged together.
Yeah, that sounds like maybe a licensing issue or something. Because that's very strange in my eyes anyway, to sell those separately.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, maybe like the AIP English language or something has different license holders attached to it or something. So they're forced to sell them in two separate packages under two different SKUs. That's unfortunate. Because I for one like really enjoy having access to multiple versions of something, like just like right off the shelf, like owning two different copies of something just to have two different versions of it. I own two different versions of the Expendables. Is a little weird, but you know, it is what it is. But man, that ending, like I'm really curious about that. Like, would that totally like throw a curveball into things? Like, is there any like breadcrumbs laid down in the version you've seen that would lead to an ending like that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, and I don't know necessarily how it plays out, because I know in the story, the Wurzelak, where Boris Karloff, he is on a horse in that. So I don't know if it's like a transition from that story into that shot, or because I don't remember the order that it's presented in this one. But yeah, there's no really, other than I guess Boris Karloff speaking directly to the camera and introducing the stories. I guess that is maybe a little bit of a, because he's breaking the fourth wall there. But yeah, it's kind of a cool, just interesting meta way to end a film.
I mean, it definitely pulls the rug out from under you.
Yeah.
I kind of just want to see Boris Karloff on a fake horse.
I know, me too. I believe, I could be wrong, but I think the Italian version is the one on Shudder, from what I've heard. So I might have to just go watch that part on Shudder. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, you've earned the right to just skip to the last minute, just to see. It's like, I've seen it.
Either version is still good, but yeah, it sounds like I would definitely dig the Italian version more.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like an interesting one. And good God, that corpse,
so good.
Wow,
so good.
It's genuinely creepy. Like, it is genuinely unsettling. Like I said when we spoke last, but yeah, folks at home, definitely give that a Google if you're in for a little spookiness.
great makeup or whatever, or the mask work, whatever it is, really effective.
Yeah, I want to say it was like makeup or something, but like just the pose and the lighting, it all just kind of comes together to make like a really creepy image.
Why, Mario Bava, he's the master. He's the master, man.
Okay. If you were to pick a favorite Gialli or Giallo director, who do you think you'd go with?
I would still go with Dario Argento. I think he's the obvious choice, but I think he's the obvious choice for a reason.
Yeah.
Because Mario Bava, he was before Argento. Definitely laid the groundwork with a lot of his stuff. But, then the other guys came in like a decade later and took it to the next level. Gotcha.
Like, did Fulci do Giallo, or is he just an Italian horror filmmaker?
He did some Giallo, for sure. The New York Ripper, even though that one takes place in New York, so it's kind of it doesn't follow every trademark of the genre, but that one's definitely a giallo. But yeah, I think the one guy who, not totally exclusively, like some of his films, his supernatural stuff falls like a little bit out of the giallo genre, but pretty much for his whole career he just directed giallo, and that's Argento. So that's why he's kind of the guy.
Okay, you heard it here, folks. Argento, he's the guy.
Yep.
All right. What do we got? Okay. So I have a pair that come from the same director, so I feel it's not entirely cheating, still a little bit. But I fell prey to the sin of not actually having watched these, so I can't actually speak to their nature entirely,
Okay.
but I know the concept behind their production. So I have here Apocalypse Now, 40th anniversary 4K, final cut, not Redux. This includes Redux, as well as Apocalypse Now.
I'm getting a headache. This is pissing me off already.
Brad has left the call. So yeah, there
Jeez.
are. This is 6 discs and includes 3 different films. If you were to ask Francis Ford Coppola, how many movies are in this one box, he would tell you 3 distinct films are in this box. I don't know how true that is. I have definitely seen Apocalypse Now Redux. I don't think I've seen Apocalypse Now, and I most certainly have not seen Apocalypse Now Final Cut, which I don't even remember what year Final Cut was actually completed or released, but it was fairly recent as far as I know. And in addition to that, I think this also includes Hearts of Darkness, the documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now. So I think there's actually technically 4 movies in this one box. Coppola, very similar to Ridley Scott, or George Lucas for that matter, seems to have that bug where he's just gotta fuck with it. Like he just can't help himself. I mean, it's fitting that he's a contemporary of George Lucas, because it just seems like many of his films end up being rejiggered in some fashion down the road. I quite enjoy Apocalypse Now Redux. I thoroughly enjoy Hearts of Darkness. I think that may even be better than the movie itself, honestly. That was a really fascinating watch. In fact, we reviewed it for Catching Up on Cinema at some point. But I'm actually curious to see what the final cut yields. Like if it even is anything, to be honest. Unfortunately, I'd probably have to rewatch what I already know in order to be able to discern those differences, and this comes back to exactly why Brad doesn't like
the worst
having multiple versions of movies floating around out there, because in order to actually know if what you're watching is different, you have to be familiar with that which came before. And in this case, it's been a fucking minute, so I actually wouldn't be able to tell you. So I may end up having to watch these very, very long films 2 or 3 times. God help me.
Also, I just want to throw this out there. Francis Ford Coppola says those are 3 different movies. I did look up on Letterboxd, and there is only 1 entry under Apocalypse Now. So sorry, Frankie. 1 movie, doesn't matter what cut.
Okay. You may have just set him off. Like he's just like hopping off his couch right now. He's like, I gotta fucking fix that. Those Letterboxd people, they gotta know what it's all about. Redux is a different film. But yeah, I seem to remember when Redux came out and there was a big hullabaloo about it. I don't remember hearing much about Final Cut, but like I said, I care enough about the movie. I have enough of an attachment to the movie that I'm actually sincerely curious to see what it is. Plus, it's the fucking 4K, man. Like, at the very least, I want to see that. So I have a good reason to at least watch the Final Cut version of it. But in addition to that, I didn't intend to buy this, but it was screaming at me for $7 at a secondhand store. The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone.
You know, I was just at Best Buy today while I was waiting to get my windshield fixed. And I went over
like
there
you
to pick
do.
up, I went over there to pick up Silence of the Lambs on 4K, and I had some time to kill, and I was wandering through the store, and I saw that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That did come out last year. Forgot about that.
Yeah, I almost forgot about it too, but then I was wandering the aisles at Al's whatever the fuck on the Ave in the U District here in Seattle, and yeah, it was jumping out at me, man. It was like $7 fucking. I mean, this, like, it doesn't matter if it's good. That's not why I'm buying this. I'm only buying this because Godfather 3 is not very well regarded, and this came out in 2020, and I'm just kind of curious to see what they did with it. And most signs point to it actually being an improvement. I don't know if it's a dramatic improvement, but most signs point to it being a superior iteration of the film, which is kind of why I like doing this exercise. I like checking out what different cuts of movies end up being. Funny story. I haven't seen it myself, but my brother told me part of the reason he doesn't have as much of an affinity for the Godfather films as many people do is it just so happens the only time he ever watched it was apparently the worst way to watch it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he ended up getting, I think, from the grocery store or something. Like, it may have even been on VHS, but he like rented it or something, and it was this very strange version of the Godfather saga of the trilogy, where it's recut in chronological order. Like, the entire story is recut in chronological order.
Really?
And he said it was like borderline incomprehensible, and it was terrible. So like the movies that many people know and love, he hasn't seen them. like he's seen the footage, but not as intended. And I was like, wow, that sounds bizarre. Because if you put those movies in chronological order, I don't see how it would cohere. Like that's not how stories work, man.
Yeah,
like there's a certain rhythm to telling a story, and that's not it.
It's pretty gross, to be honest.
Yeah, and long too, because it was all three movies, or at least the first two anyway. But yeah,
So
that's the only way he's seen it.
It like opens like, so the whole beginning of what he watched would have been, I mean, I'm not a Godfather expert, but it would have all been Robert De Niro as the young, like that's how it starts.
Yeah, I think it was like as a boy at Ellis Island, and then the story unfolds from there, and it's just like it just throws you in there. It's like, I don't know who this guy is. Like, they're all speaking Italian. Is it subtitled? I don't even know. Like, it's
strange. Very strange.
I thought that was really fascinating because I didn't even know that cut existed. But he was just like, yeah, it was weird, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't watched the Godfather Coda, but I'm actually really intrigued by the premise of revisiting that. Those are the movies I'm most curious about seeing be re-edited is things that weren't great. Like, if you take something great and rejigger it, you run the risk of making it not great. Mm-hmm. Whereas something that's already kind of bad, go nuts. Like, it's not like you're gonna offend anybody. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to dipping my toes into that one, although it's been a long time since I've seen any of the Godfathers, so like I may have to refresh my memory, and I don't own those other Godfather movies, so I may have just dug myself a $30 hole.
Yeah, and those aren't out on 4K yet, are they?
I don't believe so.
You should pick them up on Blu-ray, because then they'll come out on 4K. I'm waiting on those, so please buy them on Blu-ray, because I'll immediately announce them on 4K as soon as you buy them.
So I can share your pain. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, you mentioned Silence of the Lambs. I know that just came out on 4K like today, right?
Yeah, it was perfect. I scheduled my windshield fix on the day specifically because I wanted to time it with Silence of the Lambs 4K.
What's
I'm just kidding. That was just coincidence, but
what's the news on the street about the 4K? Because I know it exists in the Criterion Collection already.
Yep. Yeah, this is just coming out on 4K through Kino. I have not spot checked the disc yet, and Blu-ray.com does not have an official review, but I've seen some screen caps and seen people talking in the forums, and the word is pretty good. It is, from what I can tell on the screen caps, it's slightly darker than the Criterion transfer, but there is definitely a nice uptick in natural quality there. So
Okay.
I'm excited to check it out.
I was actually this close to buying the Criterion version, but now I'm having second thoughts. I should definitely look into making like a little animation that I can like hit a button and have it slide into the webcam. Just Larry David's seal of approval. Pretty good.
Yeah.
It gets the Larry David seal of approval.
Good addition, yeah.
Feel free to steal that if you like.
I do want to mention quick. I looked up because I thought, I was like, okay, well, the Godfather Coda,
Yeah.
whatever you call it. Yeah, I was like, that one must have its own separate letterbox page. So I looked that up, and sorry, Frankie, that's not a separate film either. That one has only one entry, Godfather Part 3. So
That's preposterous. How dare they do that with my Godfather film?
that I am surprised of. That's a pretty good impression too.
He's
From
he's
how I
pretty
imagine-
animated.
Not that I've watched that many interviews with him, but that's just how I imagine him to be.
He's very animated. And yeah, it's not a skillful impersonation, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
From here on out, I think I'm making a solemn vow to any time I watch a movie with significant cuts, like not like the unrated director's cut, like none of that garbage, but if there's like significant differences in cuts, like The Godfather Part 3 or Reanimator even, I think when I log it on Letterboxd, I'm going to state in the review, that'll be the only review, that all I will say, just what cut I watched, just so I have it for future reference down the road. So that's how you can do it. When you watch The Godfather Coda, just put a little review on Letterboxd and say, because you got to log The Godfather 3, but just put in the review, watched The Godfather Coda, death of whatever,
It's like, we'll never watch again.
Yeah.
Stop making additional cuts. Stop it, Frank.
Yeah, it's just more work. But
All right,
whatever.
Brett. Well, you want to go another round, or are you about tapped out?
I think I can go one more. I think
Okay.
after this, the last few there, I'll be stretching if I have enough to say. But this one, I might be stretching on this one too. But we'll see. This one, it was released theatrically just a few years ago, and when it came out on 4K, they were saying, "Oh, there's going to be a director's cut included." And this one, it is kind of, I don't know if this is good or bad. It's the theatrical on the 4K, and the director's cut is on the Blu-ray, and that is for Dr. Sleep, the Stephen King film from Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan, and it even says there includes director's cut on Blu-ray. And that was actually kind of the main reason I picked this up on 4K. Now, I'm a big Stephen King fan. I did read the book. I read the novel before the movie came out. And I don't remember my thoughts on it when it first came out theatrically, but we did review it. So, go listen to that, because I'm sure I had some great insights. But I think I was like, it was okay. I didn't really like it that much. And for whatever reason, I did watch the director's cut when I picked up this 4K, and for whatever reason, I liked it more. And I don't know if that was just more settled into what it was. Maybe it was, watching it at home, even though it is longer. Maybe the runtime, because it was long already. Maybe watching it at home, you can settle in to the runtime a little bit more. And I don't know, maybe I can't remember, but maybe there was some stuff that I appreciated as a reader of the novel that got cut. And maybe I appreciated a little bit more that it was added in. Still think some of the stuff, like the young Jack Nicholson, I think looks pretty horrendous. But no, I did like the director's cut, and I think if I went back and watched the theatrical cut, I'd probably say that I liked it more than when I first saw it anyway. But I think there's some worthwhile stuff in the director's cut, especially if you've read the novel like I have. So yeah, it's and especially Mike Flanagan, he is kind of a TV guy, so the fact that there's that extra, length to it, I'm sure it helped him out some.
Yeah, that's something I actually keep in the back of my mind these days when I watch movies made by people who are generally regarded as like showrunners for television series. It's like I try to retain that fact in my head, because I find that more often than not, you kind of can spot it a little bit. Like oftentimes it comes down to pacing, where it's like you can almost like feel that they're accustomed to having more time to just like breathe, because like a movie is a very different medium. It presents a different set of challenges, and more though, I think people are getting more tailored to the long form like television experience. Like I said, people like to live with their characters. It's something that I'm in like conversation with friends and like friends of friends. I'm discovering that like, man, there's a lot of people out there that just want to hang out with their media. Like they just want to live in it for as long as it exists. But then that's not my perspective. Like for me, I like movies because I like the format. Like I it's a fun challenge, like trying to find the right pace and the right rhythm, and sometimes omissions lead to better experiences. But in the case of Dr. Sleep, I have come this close to buying that disc so many times, Brad, because I've heard very good things about the director's cut, and I enjoyed the theatrical cut when I ended up renting it. And I'm very curious to see what the extended version's like, because I enjoyed my time with it, and I've heard that with more time to breathe, the product is like largely enhanced. So like now that you've told me about it, I may end up just pulling the trigger and picking that one up, because I did enjoy it, and I actually have been kind of itching to revisit it for whatever reason. I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something like I just watched it last year. I watched the director's cut. I just looked it up on Letterboxd. That's why I know. I just watched it last year, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I could watch that movie again. I don't know. There is something about it that's quite watchable, and like it hits a nice comfort zone where it's not amazing, I don't think, but it is very, especially because it's got that connection to The Shining, and there's some nostalgia there, I suppose, where it's a continuation of something that I've loved and seen a million times before, and this one I've only seen twice. So,
well, such is the power of Stephen King. Like he really does make cozy products. Like I mean, there's even a subgenre of murder mystery called a cozy. He doesn't do those, but like his particular brand of storytelling, like his rhythm, his style of characterization, there's a reason it fucking works. Like there's a reason it translates so well to film, and I want to say it's because it's very comfortable. Like it's familiar in the good way, and the theatrical cut of Dr. Sleep isn't short, as far as I know.
No,
like,
it's long.
Yeah, and yet, like you said, like I feel compelled to just like dive right back into it, even though I didn't watch it that long ago either. And it's because I'm kind of searching for that feeling. It's like, I want to have a good story. I want a good hangout horror movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a handsome movie on top of that, with some really awesome performances. And the attention to detail and the production design is like such that if you're gonna do the things that they did in that movie, you better fucking show up. like if we're gonna touch the world of Kubrick, yeah, you better really try hard. Like you better bring your A game, because if you fuck that up even a little bit, people are gonna jump right down your throat. And they didn't fuck it up, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I definitely just appreciate, just from Stephen King's perspective, well, not perspective, but what he did with it, doing a sequel to a novel and doing it, it's basically completely different from the original Shining. Like it's not like Danny goes back to the hotel and stays there and that's the movie. Like he doesn't get back there till the end, and what they do is completely, it's connected to the original, but it's a totally new story. And I think that's pretty commendable to do something completely different with a pre-existing property.
Yeah, you don't get that all the time, and it very much is its own. It has its own identity. Well, even though the connective tissue is there, even though it certainly is a sequel, like it couldn't exist without the original story. just thematically and texturally, it's so radically different that it's like it. Yeah, he did a very good job of exploring new territory with it. Man, gonna have to grab that one, Brad.
Put it on the list.
Yeah, it's going on the list for sure. Well, I babbled quite a lot earlier, so I'm gonna forego my next at bat in favor of a speed round to wrap things up, because like I said, I cheated a little too much. I blew my wad early, so I'm gonna wave the white flag. Be like, okay, you got
That's
me.
all right, man.
I didn't win. I didn't win the long race. I sprinted instead of marathoned. But I'm gonna start collecting my speed round stuff. I'm not gonna do all of them, but I still do have a lot. So, you want me to go first, Brad, or are you good to go?
I guess I'm good to go if you're still getting your stuff together.
You just did yours, so I'll give you some time to clear up your throat. So I'll go ahead and blow through mine. Okay, speed round. So I have on DVD. So sorry, Brad, to get your barf bag handy. The extended cut of the 2004 Punisher film. This is one of the ugliest fucking cases I own, Brad. So it's like this.
Oh wow!
And then it's like a vertical clamshell. It's horrendous. I hate this case.
Yeah.
But at the time, this was the only version I had. I wouldn't get a Blu-ray player for several years after I got this. This is a bizarre extended cut of the movie that features like almost like Ken Burnsian, like still drawings moving, like digitally moving about the screen to act as footage of a film that they didn't have money to film. So this features a prologue of Frank Castle, the Punisher, in like Afghanistan or something, and it's all presented in the form of like still images, like just sliding across the screen with audio playing over it. And in addition to that, it also features a subplot, just a subplot and a character that was cut from the theatrical cut of the film.
Okay.
It's the guy that after he fakes his death, like it's his buddy in the department or whatever, is actually a consistent element throughout the remainder of the film. But in the theatrical cut, they just said, fuck that noise. Like, we don't need this guy. So like all of his dialogue scenes with that character are inserted into the movie in pretty steady intervals in the extended cut. It's a strange extended cut because it's not like a fan service cut. Like you would expect a Punisher extended cut to just be people getting shot more. Mm-hmm. It is not that. I have The Predator, Shane Black's The Predator. This has bonus content, as the sticker will tell you, but it does not contain a different cut of the movie. I was actually gritting my teeth and hoping they were going to give us an extended cut of this one. It did not and will not happen. This was the movie that there was a sex offender on the set of this film, and it caused a controversy, and they ended up cutting his scenes. And the movie has suffered slightly because it's not a good movie to begin with, but the movie has suffered slightly because of it. Olivia Munn's introduction in the film is truncated and feels jarring. In addition to that, though, the reason I was hoping there would be an extended cut to this is that the bonus features on this disc include behind-the-scenes footage of additional Predator costumes. Like at least 2 other Predator suits that are not featured in the final film. They're also riding around in APC at some point, and apparently the entire finale of this movie, Brad, was reshoots. It was intended to be like a couple of good guy Predators show up to help our heroes in a daytime battle with the titular Predator. But the finale of the movie takes place in the middle of the night. It was all reshoots. It's a mess. The movie's not very good to begin with, but I'm still bitter of the fact that I'm aware that those scenes were shot and just thrown out for whatever reason. Maybe they look terrible, but just the prospect of good guy predators showing up with like Kevlar vests and stuff, it's like, at least that would have made me laugh in the theater. I have Little Shop of Horrors, which we just covered. And I spoke at length about the director's cut, which is a like 10-minute finale with a really dark ass ending that features some astounding miniature work. Some of the like top men were working on it, some of the best miniatures of their day, same people that worked on Brazil. Some of the best like rubber monster suit destruction scenes in 80s filmmaking, but totally cut from the theatrical version because it was too damn dark. Also a musical numbers cut from it as well. And then I have a funny 1-2 punch of Electric Boogaloo and the Go-Go Boys, which if you've watched this documentary about the Canon Film Corporation, the ending credits of it make mention of a Canon branded Canon Films documentary currently in production upon announcement of this one that ended up being the Go-Go Boys. So this is the story as told by outsiders doing research, and this is the same fucking story as told by the people who felt like telling you that because they lived it. And obviously this has a more positive spin on things. It's a really interesting 1-2 punch. I certainly prefer Electric Boogaloo as a package. I think it's just a more enjoyable film, but it just made me laugh so much to know that, like, upon hearing that someone was making a documentary about them, they were like, fuck that, we'll beat them to it. And I think they actually did. I think they beat their release date. I have similar 1-2 punch, Jodorowsky's Dune, and the death of Superman Lives. What happened? We covered this one on Catching Up on Cinema. These are stories about movies that were never made. So I guess that's a form of alternative telling, especially in the form of Jodorowsky's Dune, because obviously we've gotten 2 other Dune movies and like a Sci-Fi Channel movie of Children of Dune that were not made by Alejandro Jodorowsky. Of Universal Soldier, Day of Reckoning. Apparently this is a similar situation to Rambo Last Blood, in that I think an extended cut of this exists, but purely in digital, which sucks because this movie's fucking awesome. And if there's more awesomeness in this movie, I would very much like to see it. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with this. Superman 2, Richard Donner cut. Enough said.
That's a big one.
That is a big one. I'm surprised I didn't bring it up earlier. I have X-Men, the Rogue cut.
Well, the reason I didn't grab that is I don't have it on my shelf right now. I'm running low on space.
Yeah. Basically, this is an extended cut of the movie that features characters who had no dialogue in the theatrical cut actually having dialogue, which is kind of nice. It's like they're just pretty faces. And also, you get to see them die multiple times, which I always thought was really funny. Like, the way this narrative is constructed, it's like, oh shit, we get to see a lot of X-Men die twice in the same movie. And also, this restores Anna Paquin as a character. Like, she was completely excised from the theatrical cut, hence the Rogue cut. I think it's overall just a better cut of an otherwise pretty decent movie. Similarly, the Wolverine, I've shown this off multiple times on the show, but the R-rated cut of this movie only exists in this super duper hideous blue Best Buy box case. Worth it if you ask me, though, because you get to see ninjas go into a snow blower and get chopped up, and their gooey bits get sprayed onto the snow. It's pretty tasty. I quite enjoyed it. Blade Runner, the final cut. Can't have a discussion about alternate cuts without mentioning Ridley Scott. I myself am not a Blade Runner fanatic. However, I have the utmost respect for it, so don't shit all over me. It's an absolutely gorgeous movie. I just find it difficult to connect to on an emotional level. But from an audio-visual standpoint, it's marvelous. It's fantastic. And the final cut is probably the best version of it. And then I have some Zack Snyder shit that I'm a little bit embarrassed to mention. I have the Watchmen director's cut, which is not the complete cut of the movie. There exists a super duper duper special edition of the Watchmen that includes the Tales from the Black Freighter stories from the comic book. They made like motion comics of it on separate Blu-rays, and I think eventually they ended up putting out a version of Watchmen that reincorporates those bits. So it probably makes it into like a 5 or a 6 hour movie. Disgusting. In the comic, those were great. I enjoyed those, but for the movie, I didn't need those. Director's cut is superior to the theatrical cut. You get to see more Hollis. He has a really awesome scene where he gets to punch some people in the face. In general, I think the additions to it are beneficial. Similarly, terrible fucking movie, but Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Ultimate Edition. Apparently only available on 4K. This was one of the very first 4Ks I ever bought. I don't like this movie, but this movie makes me laugh and laugh and laugh. I've seen it way too many times. It is bad in the best of ways. Like, it's bad in ways that make you think, where it's like, wow, you really had to try to fuck that up. Like, you had to make a concentrated effort to fuck that up. So like, for me, it's like, it's an endlessly fascinating bad movie, though I totally understand if other people just can't stomach it. But that's where I'm coming from. And then I said I wasn't going to buy it, but it was on sale. Fuck it. Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
I don't know when the fuck I'm going to end up watching it. But in terms of recuts, it is a fascinating experiment. I can't really think of many other movies that have had a similar path tread. Originally released to theaters with a different director's name associated with it, though I don't think actually on the print of the film. And then through fan demand, it ended up getting rejiggered, and a lot of money got tossed into it. That's for fucking sure. And now we have this 4-hour fucking monstrosity on apparently 2 different discs, because the bit rate on it must be insane, such that it couldn't be put onto one 4K disc.
Wow.
I don't own any other 4Ks that demand that, so shit.
It's like Titanic back in the day, 2 VHS tapes.
I remember that quite well. Yeah, that was a rarity. That was like a sign. You better fucking like set aside an afternoon, man. It's like we're gonna watch Gettysburg. We're gonna watch Titanic. This is gonna be a long sit. But yeah, that's all I got, Brad.
I can't believe that. I can't believe when that Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, I actually watched both the original Justice League and that on the same weekend. Like, it's probably the low point of my year. That was what? Whew.
Yeah, I didn't go that far.
Only time I've ever done that for any alternate cuts was for that.
Yeah, I didn't go that far. I didn't rewatch the theatrical cut, because that's even worse than Batman v Superman in some ways, mostly because it's so flat. Mm-hmm. At least Batman v Superman is bad. Like, Justice League is just like, bleh. Like, you just walk away from it and it's just like, oh, what's that taste in the back of my mouth? It's like, I think my brain is leaking into my throat. I think I'm dying a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, Brad, what you got for your speed round?
Cool. Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about any of these, but we were talking about, like unrated or extended cuts with standard definition inserts. So these both fall into that zone, both from Scream Factory. We've got Texas Chainsaw, The Next Generation, and we have Silent Night, Deadly Night, which this movie actually is bad, but it is bad in like a pretty like whacked way that it's actually a fun watch. I could see myself revisiting this, and this one, it's just a sleazy Christmas time slasher. Definitely cool that both versions are on these discs, so you can watch the unrated versions with standard definition inserts, or you can just watch the theatrical versions, whatever floats your boat. Also, Scream Factory, this one's got 3 different cuts on it. It's Army of Darkness. Now, this one includes its theatrical, director's cut, and international cut. I know I've never seen the international cut. I don't know. I'm guessing I've seen both theatrical and director's cut, but I couldn't tell you which one was the last one I watched. But be aware, when this first came out, there was some problems with the disc, and I did have to do a disc replacement program. So just got to keep that in mind. Be Okay, I think it was on the international cut actually where the problem lied, but I could be wrong. I've mentioned this on the show in the past. The Act of Killing, which is a documentary. This includes 2 versions of the film: the theatrical and the director's cut. Director's cut is like an extra 40 minutes. Don't think I've ever seen it. Yeah, it's 122 for the theatrical versus 166 for the director's cut.
Whoa.
Which honestly, with documentary filmmaking, like that is definitely like inherently like I feel like any documentary could have an extended director's cut. Like when you're just shooting footage and then you're kind of piecing your film together after the fact. Of course, there's going to be stuff that gets left on the cutting room floor. So I'm sure if there was more demand for it, I think there'd be tons of documentaries doing this, but not too many documentaries actually even get put on disc. So
yeah, for real.
And last one, which you probably know more about the different cuts on this than I do, but I do love the franchise. I just don't know much about the different cuts. That is the Alien anthology, which did you have that one set aside?
I had
as well?
it set aside, but I opted to not say anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, you can go a lot into this one, but I was kind of looking at it. It looked like the first Alien, it listed it as a director's cut, while as the other ones say special edition. That's at least how they're listed in here.
That sounds right, because the director's cut, I think mostly the change that I remember was Tom Skerritt is seen like cocooned to a wall during the final act of the movie, like thereby like pointing to what the alien's actually doing as opposed to just like ripping people apart. Mm-hmm. Also, it's Ridley Scott, so like even if it's not a director's cut, I wouldn't be surprised if they just slapped that on there just because it's expected at this point. Yeah. And special edition of Aliens, the major difference is just a few snippets of dialogue. Bill Paxton going on a tirade about all the cool toys, all the cool weapons they have before the drop. Some dialogue pointing to the existence of the alien queen, like more explicitly, which is an interesting change. Like I kind of liked having that come out of left field a little bit. Mm-hmm. In general, I think I actually prefer the theatrical cut of Aliens because the sentry gun stuff did nothing for me, honestly, especially because it's so readily apparent that they only had so many alien costumes to blow up. So it's like they're recycling footage of that one alien suit blowing up just from like they're not even changing the angle, they're just like changing the zoom level on it. and it's just you're just watching numbers count down and hearing guns go off in a tunnel. It's like I guess it heightens the tension. But the major addition is the prologue with Newt and her family discovering the aliens before the Marines are even summoned. I actually really don't like having that there. Like I really hated that part. Obviously they put a lot of love and care into it. It's certainly filmed like it was meant to be there, but and then of course we all know David Fincher doesn't like to talk about Alien 3. He doesn't consider that his own film even if his name is on it. So I think that would just be you're begging for a lawsuit if you call that a director's cut.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Well, that was plenty, Brad. I'm glad you came prepared because I know you're claiming to not have a whole lot to work with, so I'm glad it was a nice surprise that you had a lot more to pull from than you expected.
Yeah, no, it was a real good topic actually. I was surprised I had that many.
Oh yeah, no, this has been a lively discussion about a collection of cuts. But before we go, Brad, thank you so much for joining me, as always. It's always great to be able to bounce ideas off you and whatnot. Thank you so much for reviewing that Arrow disc of Dune prior to the theatrical release of Denis Villeneuve's new version of that, because that was very timely, and it's a good review, bud.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was fun to do.
Yeah, folks at home, if you're not aware, Brad does have a YouTube channel in addition to the Cinema Speak podcast. And yeah, he does a lot of disc reviews. Always good time. But yeah, before we go, Brad, you want to let the folks at home know where they can find your YouTube channel and your podcast?
Yep. So it's the Cinema Speak podcast. So we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify as Cinema Speak. You can find us on YouTube as Cinema Speak as well. and Twitter at The Cinema Speak, and on Instagram, Cinema Speak Podcast. And you can also find us online just at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
All right. Well said. Thanks so much, Brad. But folks, if you'd like to catch up on any of our other Catching Up on Cinema content, you can find all of that collected on our website at CatchingUpOnCinema.com. We also have a couple social media accounts in the form of an Instagram at CatchingUpOnCinema, as well as a Twitter at CatchingCinema, so feel free to hit me up at either of those. And the show is available on pretty much any podcasting platform you can imagine, including Cephalopod, so fucking Google it. But that being said, thank you so much for watching / listening, hopefully both, and we'll catch you next time.